In today's show, we're going to do a deep dive in customizing your first app in Microsoft Teams using the new Power Apps and Project Oakdale stuff. Now, there's a shorter video, which is our link down in the description if you'd rather watch that. But I'm assuming you've watched the short one and now you're like, hey, I want to learn the details. I actually want to start customizing and tweaking this app. Then this is the video for you. But first, here's our intro. Hi, my name is Shane Young with Power Apps 911, those guys. And today's show is all about a deep dive into customizing your first app. So in the overview video, I got you all excited. I showed you how to quickly build your first app in 5 minutes, but I left out all the details, right? How do you add those face columns? How do you add required fields? How do you start to write formulas and functions inside your first Power App? So the idea of this video is this is the extended cut, right? What we're going to do is we're going to cover how to build our first app, but we're going to do so in a very detailed manner so you understand all the pieces. Because in reality, what's going on here is once you understand that this is just an extension of what Power Apps has always been, then you can go and watch any YouTube video you want on Power Apps, and you'll be able to learn and apply those same concepts here. There's just a few little things I want to teach you, not a few. There's a lot of little things I want to get you going with. So that's what this video is. All right, that's enough blah, blah, blah. Let's switch over to my desktop and take a look. Okay, so over here on my desktop, I just want to kind of show you guys, this is what we're building towards, not necessarily building this app, but building towards this app. And you might be thinking, but Shane, I've seen Power Apps embedded inside Teams before. What is different about this? Well, what's different is we're actually going to build the app from within Teams. So we're not going to leave we're not going to leave Teams and go to the Power App Studio and build something and just publish it into here. We're going to build it right here inside of Teams, which is going to give us a much richer data source. And so it's called Project Oakdale right now. It's Common Data Service Lite. So it's going to be the fastest data source going. It's also going to deal with a lot of delegation challenges, especially if you're building apps on things like SharePoint. And so we get that. We also get a rich integration. So like up here at the top, you can save a little label, channel name, general. I just wanted to show like what it would look like that you can tie in and figure out what channel they're in, what team they're in, a lot of that stuff. You can figure out whether they're in dark mode or not. There's a lot of rich integration. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start building this type of stuff together. Over here, you're going to see we have something simple. It's called a gallery. So this is just where I can choose different people like Chewy. And I can be like, oh, look, here's my buddy Chewy. I can click on edit over here. And so we can edit Chewy's data and be like, you know what? Chewy's favorite color is actually green. And then we can just save that and we can go and look at that. The data updated instantly. And so, you know, we're also going to kind of start setting the stage. So maybe I want to be able to message the employee over my Teams. We could do that. We could send an email to Chewy. So we're just going to start looking how you guys can build productivity apps right inside of Teams with what's going on here. Okay, that's enough blah, blah, blah. Let's start building, right? Let's get going and take advantage of all this. And so what I did was I made a brand new team this morning, right? There's nothing in this team, so you could see the entire experience. And so the first thing you need to do is you're going to go over here and you're going to say find an app. And you're going to find the Power Apps Preview app, right? So Power Apps Preview. And remember, all this stuff is in preview right now. So that's, you know, if its preview is no longer going on, if it's past that, then you're watching the wrong video because this video would be old. There'll be a new one when we get out of preview. But right now we're in preview. So when you add that, it's going to bring it into your environment. And you're going to see different things here based on whether or not you have data. But you're probably not going to see recent apps the first time through, right? Because you haven't built an app yet. So what you're going to do instead is you're going to say create an app. And when you create an app, you then get to choose your team. And so I'm going to use Power Apps Testing. And the reason I made a new Teams team for this is so that you can see, we're going to choose, there you go. So what I want you to see is that when you hit create, it says give us a minute. And so the idea here is that they need a minute because they're going to go provision an underlying database called the Common Data Service or a version of the Common Data Service. And they're going to put all the pieces in place so you have somewhere to store and save your data that's not SharePoint, not an Excel spreadsheet or SQL, right? It's built right in here. So I'm going to hit pause for a second while this all builds, but right now we're getting it all provisioned for us. And so here we can see it is finished. It went ahead and said getting things ready. I could have left the channel while it was going on and, you know, it would have just left me a message telling me it was done, but I just let it all process. So we're doing great. Things are getting ready. And look at that. It dropped us into the Power Apps Studio. So we didn't jump out to a different website. I didn't even leave my Teams client. We're in the Power Apps Studio here. And so now what they're going to do is we're going to start building our first app. We're going to make this a little bigger, make it easier to see hopefully. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to see that the first thing you're probably going to want to do is create a new table. So say create new table. All we have to do is give it a table name. And so I'm going to call this My Employees, but you can call it whatever you want, right? This is not important. Now, another pro tip here is always hit advanced settings. And so in this case, it's just showing you what would be the plural name. Well, the plural of employees is employees, so there's not one. But one of the things you want to do as you're trying to learn all this is every time you see advanced settings, expand it. Just read what's there. You're not going to use them 9 times out of 10, but you're trying to plant those seeds. Get yourself thinking, hey, what might be possible in the future? Anyway, so what we're going to do now is we'll say create. And so after, I don't know, 2 seconds there, it will drop us in this table editor. So here we can start building out a table to store our data. And so one of the things I might want to do here, first off, might be like, hey, I don't want name to be the first column. I actually want it to be called job title. That's what we're going to do. We're going to build out kind of this employee data set. So I'm going to say edit my column. And so then it's like, all right, well, what would you like to call it? I'm just going to call it job title. We're going to say save. And just like that, there's a column. So now we're going to be like, hey, add another one. I'm going to add first name. And then I have this rich set of choices of the different types. What's even cooler is that's not all of them. I'm going to show you some more here in a second after we build a couple of these first ones. But there you go. We got first name, and we're just going to make it text. Pretty simple. Once again, remember you expand advanced options. Oh, how long do you want it to be? 100's fine, but we could have done that. So we'll say create. All right, we'll bolt in last name, and it'll be exactly the same. And so then now how about let's add a different type of column. And let's do something like age. So I like to keep track of how old my employees are, right? Probably not allowed, but whatever. But what I wanted to talk about here is that we're going to use a number for that. And so numbers, if you want to know, that is a number column, but that doesn't have any decimal points, right? So that's the number 29 for my wife's age, right? She's always 29, keeps me out of trouble. But it's just a whole number type of column. Because the other thing I want to add here is I'm going to add their hourly wage. Yes, I don't pay my employees in hourly wages, but I like hourly wages because those are decimal numbers. So that's where we're going to be able to put in a number that has a decimal. So $12.55. And so then you'll also, here we'll add another one. How about we'll keep track of when did we hire these people? And so there is a date column here. Very cool. And then the last one that we'll create in this interface is we'll say save here. And we will put in another column for, are they good at their job? I'm even going to put a question mark in there because I always think it's cool just to test the limits of what's possible. And so here we're going to do a yes, no. I could change these. I can change the default. I like that. Oh, you know what? One more column. I'm sorry. I remember another one I want to do. And so we'll scroll to the right here a little bit. We'll say plus, and then we're going to say we want to do favorite color. It's also a very important metric because what I wanted to show you here is that there is also this thing called a choice column. And so a choice column is as simple as you think, right? You can do like red, green, and then yellow. And there are little color pickers over here, so I could have it show up in different colors. You can't customize them or anything. It's one of those features that kind of keeps changing. Remember, we're in a preview, so it's going to continue to ebb and flow over the next few weeks, months, years, however long we stay in preview. Probably not years, probably not months, but whatever, who knows. But these colors don't really manifest themselves back over in the Power App side, so they're not really a big deal, but I just thought it was a fun little visual to add. So we'll say create. And so that gives us some columns. And so then now, if we walk through, I can just kind of fill out this, right? So the first person we always add my employee data set is CEO. And who is that going to be? That is going to be Nicola and Young. I told you already, she's 29, I'm sticking to it. We're going to pay her $99.99 an hour. When was she hired? Who knows? Oh, look, nice little date picker here, though. So maybe I want to kind of go backwards on the dates. Maybe she was hired somewhere in here. How about 2016? That was the year we got married. So I'll get some bonus points for that, right? So just put it December of that year. Perfect. Of course, she is good at her job. And then her favorite color here can be yellow. Cool. So there you go. So we added our first row of data. And so here, I'll hit pause real quick and I'll add 3 or 4 more people. I'll be right back. Okay, so I added a couple people here. Right, Chewy is the chief napping officer. He's my dog. If you watch all my other videos, I've got about 100 of them. You'll see Chewy a lot. I also just realized that I didn't get married in 2016, at 2006. So don't tell her I messed that up. We'll just fix that real quick. Real easy to edit. Right? I can even edit right here directly, but oops, that would have been a problem. All right. So there you go. We got some data. Now what's really neat is when we close out of this, Power Apps is going to do a little magic for us. It is going to hook up our data into what they call the hero template, right? This is this idea that it's like, hey, here's our records over here on the left. Here is an ability to edit them. And so if we just say preview, we can open this up right away. We can see, oh, look, the data is in there. And if we hit the edit pencil, we can be like, oh yeah, the favorite color is actually green. We say save, and just that fast, the data is saved. Now, before we get into customizing this though, I want to concentrate a little bit more on the data. So I want to go back over and I want to change the data some more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, hey, don't show me this again. Cool. I'm going to go up here, I'm going to name my app. Now, Power Apps auto-saves your app every 2 minutes, but you want to make sure that you get it saved the way you want it so that auto-save is doing what you need. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on app up here, and I'm going to call this video demo. All right, very creative name, I know. We're going to say save. So now we know that my app is saved. Whew, I don't want to lose any of that hard work. But what I also want to do is, so now I want to get out because I want to go edit this data some more. And so I could say edit data right here, and this brings back up the table editor, but there's a richer experience that if there's even more features available to you. So what we want to do is we're going to look at that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on build up here at the top. This took me out of the app. And so then over here now, we can see if we click on Power Apps Testing, remember that's the new one I just created. And so if you get this, it's real easy to be like, whoa, where's all my stuff, right? Why is it not here? This is just one of those nuances of the preview. If you hit dismiss, it'll take you in, you're like, whew, there's all my data, thank goodness. Okay, so then now that we've kind of got this here, what I'm gonna do here is I typically hit see all because this gives me that full experience, right? This is about you guys learning as much as I can get you to learn in a short amount of time. And so over here, then we make, all right, tables. And so then here is your table. Now, if you select your table, notice that you'll see different things. I can go back in the visual editor. We can delete the table. We can break a new table. You can also manage permissions. We're not going to get in that today. You may or may not be seeing that in your environment yet because it's a feature that's still kind of in early flux. So if you're watching this on launch day, it might not be there. But once it shows up, go click around. There's some cool stuff in there. So the other thing that I want to do here is I'm going to click on My Employees Now. And so when you click on it here, now you get this rich experience. You're like, whoa, what is all this stuff? I get overwhelmed by it too, don't worry. Up here in the top right, because this is showing you all the columns. The Common Data Service, or Oakdale, is such a powerful data source because Microsoft does so much for you, right? Like, look, it's tracking modified by, and there's a created stuff, there's UTC things, there's versions, there's all types of fields here. There's the created stuff. It's overwhelming. Don't be overwhelmed. Go up here and hit the drop down. Change this from default to custom. Those are the columns we created. Whew, much easier to understand. So what I want you to do now, though, is I want you to say add a column. And so we're going to create one we're going to call face. And so now what we're going to do is instead of, oh, look at that. This dropdown has a whole bunch of more rich data. And if you're familiar with Common Data Service, you recognize these. If you're not, no big deal. Play with them. Try these different ones out. See what they do and don't do for you. But the one that I'm really after right now, I'm going to ignore most of them, is I really wanted this image one because I wanted the ability to store a picture of people's faces. We saw Power Apps was kind of set up to do it, but we have to come over here and create image. So I'm going to say image, and we're just going to be like, cool, all done. And so when we do that, notice down the bottom right, you have to save table. I guess I had to move my face over. Whoop. And so when I did that, you can see save table down here. So you need to save it. But before we save it, I want to look at one other thing. Say that as you were building up this data set, you wanted to make sure that you always got a first name, right? Because if we look at required, right now, only job title is required because it was a primary name column. And we could say, you know what? I don't want it to be required. Cool. It is optional. So that would make that one not required, but we will make first name required. So you can click on this column and set it to required. So say done. And so we'll hit save table here. So these are the little things that you just have to kind of go and play with, right? The table editor was super fast, quick way to get up and running. But as you start to build more complex solutions and want to understand this thing at a deeper level, coming over into this experience lets you kind of start to see it and kind of go a little further. So don't be afraid to come over here and click around. You don't have to, but one of the things I'm really trying to do is empower you guys to learn more. Now, up here you can also see, maybe all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I'm going to click in Teams real quick and see what's going on. And then you kind of lost things, right? You're like, what happened? No big deal. What I want you to do is we're going to click the ellipses. We're going to open up the Power Apps preview again. But one of the things you can do here is you can right click on this and you can say pin. And so when you pin it, now when I go over to Teams, it won't go away. So I think that's probably one of those things you want to do. Another thing you might have noticed is when I right clicked here, I have the ability to pop out the app. And so if we pop out the app and I drag it over where you can see it, here you can see that now I have the Power Apps app running standalone. It's still inside of Teams, but it's running as a standalone little piece versus in here. So that way I can more easily switch to my chats and my Teams without getting lost. Now, I point that out to you though, but just keep in mind that that is not released yet. So you probably do not have pop out, but you'll have it soon. I don't know when that means, but I know you'll have it soon. So as soon as that shows up, I think that's going to be the best practice to get used to using it over there, right? Okay, so we're back over here. Now you can see I got a lot of things going on. I've been practicing a lot, but you're like, I'm really overwhelmed, and that's fair. So typically what I've been doing is just clicking on this build tab. And so once I drop into here, then I can find the Teams environment that I built it in, and then I can go ahead and go back in when we start editing the app. And remember that every one of these Teams, team, it's so hard to say. Every one of those is its own little critter. And the reason I point that out is because look, I have my employees here. If we go back over to Contoso Bank, there is also, if we say see all and click on tables, there's a my employees here. Those are two separate instances of my employees, right? They are two different worlds, but because every one of these environments is its own. So that's important to understand. You need to make sure you're in the right Teams team because all your apps, all your tables are contained in that team. That's where they're focused. All right. So let's go back to video demo and let's go in a little further now that we've kind of understand, or we got some more columns kind of going on over there. Okay, so now that we're back over here, we're like, hey, let's explore and let's customize this app just a little bit so you guys can start to kind of get yourself more familiar with Power Apps. To that end, I'm going to click over here on the left. And if you switch this view right here to tree view, what you're going to see is that it kind of gives you this hierarchy-driven view of what's going on. And so one of the things you might see here, we just clicked on the Browse Gallery. The galleries are controls that are used to show you a table of data, one or many records from a data source. And so in this case, I can start to customize it. And so over here on the right, we've got the different data sources. We can do views, we can do the different layouts. So maybe instead of image title and subtitle, I'm gonna scroll down and say I want image title, subtitle, and body. So that's going to change what we see, all right? And then if we click on fields, we can even drag in a little further and say, all right, well, the top one, I want first name. Cool. That second one, I'm gonna do people's favorite color. It's a real important thing about people. Oh, the image. So look, it's doing this image or this item dot face. All right, so we might be able to get that here in a second. And then finally, we've got their age. So it's kind of got some different columns going on. So that's one way to customize what you see over here. Now, if we kind of collapse this over a little bit. And so one of the things I've been doing with the image, so if we go here, we haven't added one yet. So we're going to need ability to, we're going to have to add it before it shows up, right? We haven't uploaded a picture of these people's faces, so we'll have to come back to that in a second. But the other things that we can look here, so if we click in here, right now there is this weird little rectangle that sits on top. I just want you guys to go ahead and delete that out. It causes a lot of challenges when working. So we're just going to delete that rectangle because now I can click on Nicola. And so up here at the top, you can see that this is actually what we call a label control. And so this label control in the text property is this item.firstname. So that's why if you look, you can see, we'll kind of make this a little bigger. You see Nicola's first name, Chewy, Greg, right? You see everyone's first name. Now, if you wanted, you could come up here and change it, but hey, what if I want to see their last names instead? We could do this item.lastname and we'd see the last name. Now, Power Apps is very case sensitive. So what I always recommend is, like, I started typing in last, I'm going to hit the down arrow because I want to choose that one, and I'm just going to hit enter and let Power Apps type it in with the right sensitivity. So a little pro tip there. But what if we want to show both first name and last name? Well, this is where you get to write your first low-code formula. So what we're going to do is we're going to say this item first name. We're going to use an ampersand, which means concatenate. And then we're going to concatenate in a space. And so in Power Apps, you delimit a string. So you make strings by putting in double quotes. So double quote, space, double quote gets you a single space. And so then you could do another ampersand in this item dot last name. And so look at that. Now that one label shows everyone's first name, space, last name. There you go. You have written your first formula. Yay! So let's go down here. Let's write another one. Let's go click on the age. You know what? I actually didn't want to show you guys age. I wanted to show you guys their hourly wage. So I started typing hour. I'm going to hit down and enter. There we go. We got the hourly wage. Now you might notice that that is showing it, but look, 99.99, 100 with no decimals, 12.5 with no trailing zero. I want this to look like currency, okay? So what you might do, let's kind of pull this over as well. I don't like where it's sitting, so I'm going to grab this little bar, kind of slide it. There we go, that looks better. But so we're going to write a more complex formula. But if you're familiar with Excel, you used Excel before, it's going to seem very familiar. So what we're going to do is we're going to say text, and then this item dot hourly wage. And so then what do we want it to look like? I'm going to do, it's a string, right? We want to turn it into a text format. So I'm going to put a string in my quotes. And I'm going to do this formula right here. And close it out. And so look at that. Now if you look at all these, they're all in a currency format. The US currency format. You can change it to your different region if you live somewhere else. Don't worry. But I use the US currency format. We're off and running. So you look at that formula though, let's click back on it, and we're like, hey, how did you know to do that? Great question. And so the answer is you need to use the documentation. So this is probably the most valuable thing I'm going to show you. So let me switch and show you that in the browser real quick. Okay, so over here in your browser, I'm going to search for Power Apps Formula Reference, or if you look down in the description below, I'll have a link to this, but this is how I always find it. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go to this document, functions, signals, and enumerations. And so what this is the thing you're all looking for, right? This is a list of every single Power Apps function available. And if we scroll all the way down to the T's, there's the text function we just used. And if you scroll through here, it explains how it works. Oh, look, there's predefined formats, so you can use it not only to do numbers, but to format dates. Pretty cool. There's all that weird zero and number sign and periods and stuff I did earlier. So that's pretty cool. More of the date stuff, literal placeholders. Whoa. It talks a little bit about if you have apps in different languages, which many of you will. So it explains how that works. And then finally down here at the bottom, it has examples. And look, there is that number example that I just did for making something look like currency. So this documentation, this is my best gift I can give to you as new to Power Apps people, is that this list, this is what changed my life. And what I would do when I was trying to learn was I would come in here every day and I would read through the list of functions, right? I wasn't trying to memorize them, but what I was trying to do was just plant seeds in my little brain that said, hey, look, there's a bunch of stuff around arctangents and arctangent based on XY coordinates. I don't even know what that means, right? It was in trigonometry class that I failed, I think. There's a cute girl in there that messed me all up, whatever. But what the thing was, is that as you look at this, you know, this gets ideas. So there's a bunch of complex math stuff. There's a compass one. Oh, and look, there's a connection state. So it turns out that there's a lot of rich experience functions in here for you to take advantage of. So what I don't want you to try and do is memorize them though, is I want you just to think, hey, how do I start to like do this and that? So when someone comes to me and says, hey, we want to build an app to coordinate the distance between two GPS coordinates, you can be like, well, that's done in radians. I remember there was something about radians in here, and so you could come find that function. That's what I'm after with you guys, is understanding all the functions here. There's date functions, there's text functions, there's number functions, there's math functions, there's formatting functions. There's just, I don't even know how many. I should count one day. There's a lot, and I love every one of them just the same. They're all my children. So check out your functions. Okay? But so that was how, after years of doing this, since like the Stone Ages, I think, I now know how to build this type of stuff from that. Okay? So the next little concept here we want to talk about. So notice that I gave everyone a favorite color, right? So we got green, we got red, we got green again. Well, one of the things that you might be finding yourself is like, hey, what if I want to make their text show up in the color that they do? Well, I'd hit the little drop down up here in the top and I'd be like, well, look, there's a color. And so if I change this color from, it's currently blank, which is really weird. Let's just type in a color. Let's just type in something like red. Oh, look, it goes to red. And if we go to blue, it goes to blue. Oh, blue-violet, even better. Ooh, that's kind of purple. I like it. So what you really realize is that this color property, it wants a color returned. And so Power Apps has about 170 different color properties built in. And when we highlight this, it says right here, data type is color. But what happens if I don't want to do that? What if I wanted to use like RGBA, right? The people gave me that. No big deal, right? So 169, goodness gracious. 44, 33, set hut, 0.1. And so that is a really hard to read. I don't even know what color to call that because I don't know my colors. But you can put in your RGBA coordinates or formula for a color. You can also use, maybe they gave you your color in this format, right? The hexadecimal format. So we do like this, and we go F234 and that. Oh, look at that. Look at that pretty color I just made up off the top of my head. So that's another way to do it. So those are two options you have available to you. But what about using this built in? What if we want to use their favorite color? Well, what I would try here is I'd be like, all right, this item dot favorite color. It's mad at me. Whenever Power Apps is mad at you, it's got a little red dot up here, and it underlines which mad. So here I can hover. Oh, you want a color value. Well, the word green is a color value. But no, the word green is text. It just happens to spell a color. So what we need to do is we're going to turn this control into text like that. Still mad. But then there is a function called color value that takes a text representation of a color and turns it into a color. So look at that. So now people show up green, red, green. If we click on Greg's record here and edit it, and we change his favorite color to be yellow, and we say check, it updated the data, and whoa, that like burns my eyes. It's real hard to read, but you get the idea. Now, you might be thinking, Shane, I'm never going to do this. That's fair. But what I need you to take away from this is that when you build one of these, the idea is that the color, the color property, right? So when we click on this, the color property just needed a color. It didn't care how it got there. So anytime in Power Apps you're working with data, right? And this is going to go for the next 100 years while you're building apps inside of teams. You just need to think, what does this thing want? In this case, it wanted color. I needed a function that returned a color. It just happened I used some data. Another great example, right? There is something called font size here. So right now it's 9. If I change it to 15, the font's got bigger, right? And so the idea here is that it just wants a number. But I did 15. I could have also just done 5 times 3 because that also returns 15. Or I could have used this item dot age. Remember, age is a number. And so you can see all of a sudden now that Nicola's color is really big and Greg's is really big, right? Because they're old. But Chewy was only 4. It's so small I can't even see it. It's like right there. I kind of see it. So the idea is that you can have any type of input passed in as long as it turns a number. You could be like, I want it to be age divided by 4. Cool, right? Everyone's got that in there because it's a number. That's all that Power Apps care about. So that's the main lesson I want you guys to take out of this, is that as you're building these apps and you're starting to explore what do these different properties do, oh goodness, I'm having a hard time resizing and talking at the same time apparently. But as you try to figure that out, what I want you really doing is asking yourself, what does this thing want? Oh, font size wants a number. All right, how do I want to get to the number? Maybe the font size changes based on the month of the year. Do some math, no big deal. Okay, so that's our gallery. So now over here, we want to switch gears to our form. And on our form, what we're going to have is, if we kind of expand this thing from the left again, and we'll just hit this little resizer and make this fit. I know it's hard to see, but we got all the things on the screen at once. So now that we're in a form, you can control things like what fields show up. So I'm going to say edit fields. And one of the fields I want to add is that face. I want to start, adding pictures of all my employees. So we're going to add the face field. We're going to add it. And maybe we want to drag it up a little bit, right? We're going to make, hey, I want you right after first name and last name. Cool, cool, cool. All right. So now that that is in there, you see that we have this. And so if we say preview and we say edit, click to add a picture. And so if we go look over here into my one folder right here, and so see, there's uglier Greg's picture, right? Greg's been my friend forever, so I'm allowed to make fun of him. It's kind of one of those things people complain about. But now we say hit the X, and not only are we going to see Greg's picture here, but we're going to see Greg's picture right here. Now, one of the things I don't like is, did you notice? You probably didn't, but Greg's face got blurrier. Greg's face is hard to look at when it's clear. When it's blurry, it's terrible. And so the reason for that is if we hit the X here and we go and look right here on this, what is called the data card. That is the card that is showing people what's going on. If you click on the drop down over here, one of the things that is set here is the default. What field is it showing? It is showing this item.face. And so one of the ways that Oakdale works today in preview, it might not work this way in the future, but works today, is that by default, it is showing you a low resolution, like a thumbnail size version that it auto-generated of Greg's face, which being stretched back out doesn't look very good. So what you're going to do is you're going to go over here to the advanced on the right. You're going to unlock this to change the properties. And so what you need to do instead is you're going to say, hey, instead of this item.face, you can do a dot, and you can do a dot full. And when you do a dot full, that gets you back that high resolution photo. So this was one of those things that drove me crazy when I was playing with it. So I just wanted to save you guys the grief and show you that one. Because unlocking cards, it's more advanced. We'll talk about that later. But in the short term, if you're using images, that's the way you deal with it when you upload them to the Teams environment. Okay? So then, the same type of thing would hold true over here. If we go back to our gallery for a second, and we click in our gallery, like we're on this item.face. And so if we do this, we can just do a dot and then full. And so that way we're using the high resolution image over there. And maybe we want to make those a little bit bigger. So I'm going to kind of pull this a little wider. We'll pull green back over here. Oh, let's see. So we're going to go over here. We're going to click on the gallery, and then we'll click like this. And we're going to click our mouse like right here. No, right. There we go. I'm going to pull this down, make it bigger so we got more room. Thank goodness. All right, so there's the green. Pull the name up. So we just kind of drag all these things around until we get them all to be where I really want them to be. There we go. We made a bigger face. So a little cleanup work there on the gallery. Speaking of cleanup work, if we go back over to our form, right? Our form is selected now. I'm going to go back to properties. And so you can change the number of columns. And so the one that I recommend is actually 12. If you do 12, it's going to put everything into a 4-column layout. And so then now if you kind of look at this, right, we kind of got a cleaner look at the stuff. But maybe we want to make some of these bigger, some of these smaller. No big deal. We can click on like the first name. Let's make it half the screen. I'm going to pull it to the right. All right, so there's half, and then we'll make last name the other half. And then we're just going to kind of shrink this up a little bit. Oh, that looks a little nicer. Greg's face, maybe we want to take up the whole screen, right? Something like that. Now, hire date just stretched out the whole way, so I want to make hire date smaller. So I'm going to grab hire date, I'm going to pull it to the left. And when you pull it to the left, it doesn't always cooperate. It's another one of those fun things in preview. So what it is it's this width fit. So we're just going to do is we're going to turn that off for the moment. Oh, now it goes where we wanted. And so then now if we resize that one, you can see these all jumped up. I go down to good at your job, be like, hey, you shrink. There you go, you shrink. And then if we just kind of wiggle this one, it pulls up. And so then now we've got kind of, we'll make this take up a little more room. We kind of got a different little experience there. So there's a lot of stuff there that you can play with. One of the things I would recommend is do not ever turn off snap to columns. You can, but it is just like a form of self-torture that no one should ever put themselves through. It's a grumpy little experience. So don't turn that off. But so then, you have the different columns here. You have the different layouts. So you can kind of just play with some of the settings over here. I don't want to get into that, but I just wanted you guys to kind of understand that that was there. And then, I also want to make sure that you, as you saw already, right? Oh yeah, I want hourly wage in front of good at their job. You can kind of drag these things around. You can delete them. You can add additional fields. So you have a lot of different customizations. And I've got whole videos, like 4 or 5, on just customizing forms. So if you want to go find those, just go search Power Apps, and customize form, or click on some of the links below. But a lot of different stuff there I don't want to get lost on. Okay? So we're doing pretty good. 2 other things I want to make sure you guys understand. I know we're getting a little long here, but there's so much I need you guys to start thinking about. So one of them, up here, this right now, and they just predefine this as text. One of the things I want to make sure you guys know about is that there's a function called user. And so the user function will return the current logged in user's full name. So if you want to have something that said something like, hi, and like this, right? So then now when I logged in the app, it would say hi user 126. That's who I am in this environment. But so every employee would see their own name up there. Because one of the things I want you to think about as you're building Power Apps is don't ask people questions you already know the answer to. You already know their name, right? Use the user function. The user function also already has their email address, right? So lots of different pieces there. I want full name. So there's that. The other one here, we'll just add another label. So I can go here to the insert menu. I'm gonna grab a label and I just can drag it and just drop it right here. And so in this label, what I might be like is, team name. And so there is also a custom object called teams. And so you can do teams, and then you can see there's different properties. Oh, how about this team? All right, and you notice the drop down, or the little red, and it says this is a record. A label can't show a record. A record is a whole row out of a database, right? Multiple fields. I want to show a specific field. So just add another dot to the end, and then be like, oh, what is your display name? And so right now it doesn't show anything, which is really confusing here in Studio, but that's because we're not in a team. But in a second, we'll see that. All right, so I think that's, we're in good shape here. So what I want to do now is we're going to say save again. We don't really have to, but I like to hit save early, save often. And so now we're going to publish this out to our team so other people can see it. So we're going to say publish to teams. We're going to say next. And so then this is like, hey, in the team that we're in, remember, because when you build an app in a specific team, you have to stay in that team. You can't jump across. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I want to add it to what channel. I only have one channel. So just hit the plus over here. That adds video demo. And when we say save and close, now when we switch over to that one, we'll be able to see our app in action. So give this just another second here. Okay, and so that's done. So now if we go over here to Teams, we go to Power Apps General, look at that. Video demo is already up here. And if we click in there, okay, and look at that. After just a little bit of loading there, it went ahead and loaded our app up. And so now we go back over here to Nicola's record, right? We can edit it out, or not edit it out, but edit it. We'll put in her fancy little party favor hat. And there you go. We're going to load that. So we're able to populate data. We have the ability to create new records. Also notice my channel name showed up here like we promised, and the user. Fun. If you don't like Greg's record, right, we can always click in here, and then we can click on the delete button right here. And so then we get a little pop-up. Hey, are you sure you want to delete this record? Because once it's gone, right? There's not a recycle bin, so to speak. So just keep that in mind. We won't delete Greg today, but we have the ability to. And this kind of gets you that first app, that first template that allows you to start doing the things you need to do with Power Apps. Remember, there's not a lot going on here. You don't have to worry about it. Now, I do want to point out one other thing, though. If we go back over, and so we go back to build, and then we go back to Power Apps testing. And so if we go back to video demo, and so if you go back over here and say we click on the little tree view, and we click on screen 1, and we just change the background color to be red. Oh, that's a little rough. But so if we save this and then we were to go back over to our Teams channel, we're actually not going to see the red right away, right? The reason for that is because with Power Apps, when you save an app, it's just saving it for you, the maker, to see it. And it's not until you publish again. So I have to hit publish when I want to push those out. So that's one of the ways you do some of that lifecycle management. You build the first version of the app, you release it to your users. They're using it, they're doing everything, yay! You then can go back in the studio and start making tweaks, updates, enhancements, and then when those are done and you're like, hey, I feel like these are good and ready to roll out, then you hit publish, and then that's when they'll see those, but they won't see them while you're in flight. So you don't have to worry about editing the app. Once you've published it, it's only going to stay on the version you have published until then. Right? You might want to explore over here. There's other fun little things. So we can create additional screens. We can add other data sources. These are all things we're going to cover in future videos. There's some different things around settings and things like maybe the sizing you're wondering about. So a lot more for us to learn. But the whole idea here was to get you guys going, building an app that could actually start working, interacting with data. And I think this is like Power Apps video number like 99 for me. So the good news is that now that you're kind of caught up, right? You've built a table, you've built it, you're in the Power Apps studio. Now almost any Power Apps video pertains to you. You can go watch my video on custom forms or custom galleries or sorting or filtering or cascading dropdowns or generating PDFs. All of that same stuff is applicable to you. There might be slight tweaks. You might have to do it a little bit different, but all of that same exact content is open to you. That's the reason I wanted to do this video with this data set. It's the same data set that my other videos are based on as well. But now you're empowered to learn as much as you want about Power Apps and do it all right here inside of Teams. Okay? So hopefully you've enjoyed this. Hopefully it's got you on board. I realize it was longer than your average YouTube video, but this was the stuff I needed to teach you guys in order to empower you to be really good at this. If you have any feedback from Microsoft on the preview, I'll put a link down in the description below to the Microsoft user voice channel. So that's a place that you can go and do. If you're still wondering about like an overview of what is, Oakdale, what is all the possibilities, I'm going to link to an Ignite session down there by Mark and Tulsi. They are two of the key product managers that are running this. So go check out their session. I think it's very informative. I also will put down there a link to our training.powerapps911.com. We have full training materials out there where you can go and learn, take Power Apps classes and Power Automate, which is flow, the ability to build like workflows. All of that's available to you guys now as well. And hopefully you guys are enjoying this, right? This is a really awesome opportunity. If you've loved Teams for a long time, this is how you're going to do more and do more awesome things. And then finally, of course, if you need any help, like project help, consulting help, Power Apps 911, they are happy to help there, or I'm happy to help there. I don't know. We all work here. Leave me comments below, feedback. What do you want to see in future videos? I am game, right? This one's only meant to be lived through the preview phase, and then I'll redo this exact same video, but on the RTM or the general availability version when that gets released here in the next weeks, months, whenever Microsoft lets that go. So with that, I'm going to say thanks and have a great day. Before you go, be sure to click on the subscribe button over here so that way you'll be notified when new videos come out. If you need any help or you want to work together, whether your problem is big or small, check us out at Power Apps 911. We do it all. I rhymed. Or if you're looking for more formal training offerings, we have those linked up here somewhere. So check them out. Thanks and have a great day.